Christ left us an example that we should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. But the Quran frankly admits that Muhammad was a sinner, urges him to confess his sins, and I don't think that we would want to follow some of the things that Muhammad did. The history of Islam has been shameful. His followers killing one another by the hundreds of thousands the first century or two after Muhammad died. They're still doing it today. You know, in Iraq, the Shiites and the Sunnis, they're killing one another. A Shiite goes into a Sunni mosque, or maybe it could be in Pakistan, blows himself up, a suicide bomber, and the Shiites say, he went to heaven as a martyr. The Sunnis say he went to hell. But then a Sunni goes into a Shiite mosque and blows himself up, and his fellow Muslims, actually, and the Shiites say he went to hell. No, the Sunnis say he was a martyr and he went to heaven. I mean, we've had this thing going on for a long time now, right to the present day. You had an 8-year war between Iran and Iraq. They were Muslims fighting one another, Shiites and Sunnis. They used 1,000 tons of poison gas on one another. They killed as many as in World War I. I don't think that represents a peaceful religion. You had a civil war going on in Algeria. They killed more than 100,000 of one another. And I mean, I could go on. The history of Islam has been the history of slaughter. They went all the way from France to China. Most of you didn't know that. Historians tell us that the Muslims in India alone slaughtered more than Hitler slaughtered in East and West Europe and North Africa. So I'm just simply, I think it's legitimate. What has Islam done? It seems to me that it has been responsible for murdering millions of people. Now, I don't think that the followers of Jesus did that. Now, there are some people who call themselves the followers of Jesus. But what I'm talking about is the example Muhammad himself set, what the Quran says. There are more than 100 verses in the Quran of jihad in the name of Allah. Let's take another comparison here. The Bible says, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Well, try that out in Saudi Arabia. There is no liberty. No liberty in any real Muslim country where the Muslims have any control. Saudi Arabia, a Jew can't set foot in there, and they wouldn't dare, because they would be killed the minute they set foot in there. Muhammad said, Allah has commanded me. No, that's Allah. He said the last day. Muhammad said the last day will not come until the Muslims confront the Jews and the Muslims destroy them. In that day, Allah will give a voice to the rocks and the trees, and they will cry out, O Muslim, O Abdullah, O servant of Allah, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him. This is from the Sahih Bukhari hadith. There is, you not only can a Jew enter Saudi Arabia, I couldn't carry a Bible on the street in Saudi Arabia. Shabir and I could not have this debate in Saudi Arabia. I was speaking on Islam in a church, and the whole front row was the imam, and we want to speak too. Well, I said, when you can work that out in Saudi Arabia or a Muslim country, then we'll do it. Why don't you have that freedom that we give you here? Why don't you have it over there? That's a question that maybe Shamir could answer for us. Well, any Muslim who changes, converts to any other religion, off with his head. And they do it in Saudi Arabia, and I document all of these things for you in this book, Judgment Day. We're still considering the fruits A tsunami strikes. Thousands, maybe millions of Muslims are killed. Who rushes to their aid? The West, Western nations. Now, I would say that's a Christian heritage, not that the West really practices Christianity now, because they've strayed from that, but there is still an ethic and a morality that hangs on from the Christianity that once they had. Muslim nations, with their trillions in oil revenues, they don't do very much. It's the West that always rushes to do this. You can dispute that or look it up if you wish. Now, how do the Bible and the Quran compare? Well, the 66 books in the Bible were inspired over a period of more than 1,500 years through 40 different prophets, most of whom never knew one another. But there's a continuous developing revelation. Hundreds of times the prophets declare, hundreds of times. Ezekiel, more than 60 times himself, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying. Muhammad never says that. The Quran never says that. Muhammad says it was the angel Gabriel who was telling him what Allah said. And furthermore, the Bible is established. God doesn't change his mind. The Quran, I'm quoting Surah 2:106, such of our revelations as we abrogate or cause to be forgotten, we bring in their place one better or the like. Manuscripts, we got more than about 25,000 full or partial manuscripts for the New Testament. We've got all kinds of manuscripts for the Old Testament. There are no manuscripts for the Quran. The Quran, Muhammad was illiterate. He couldn't read. He recited it as the angel Gabriel supposedly dictated it to him. People weren't quite ready. They wrote it down as quickly as they could on palm leaves or bones or rocks or whatever was at hand, and that was kind of kept by people who wrote it there. Muhammad's favorite wife, Aisha, said domestic animals ate some of the original Quran. Now, there was a caliph named Uthman. By the way, 3 of the first 4 caliphs, called the rightly divided caliphs, they were murdered by fellow Muslims. Imagine Peter being murdered by John. No, this doesn't speak well. We're talking about the fruits again. We could contrast the